Okay, last part, everybody. Do remember that this material did cover 2 lectures, so but I knew it would be kind of long, so that's why I broke it up into 3 parts. But it works nicely. We started with equity and equality, kind of understanding what that was. Then we put on some kind of reference to the digital divide and kind of understanding the problems that we have, especially related to technology, according to kind of 5 specific areas. And then what I want to offer here is kind of how can we bridge the digital divide? Like, what can we do, or what can you do? What can I do to help this situation in the classroom? Again, I mentioned in one of the other videos, this is a huge task, and we all should understand that. But if all of us would work toward helping the situation, I think we could get there a lot faster and be more helpful to our students as a result. So the thing that I'm going to really press in this part is please read the article that's posted. This is one of those oldie but goodies by Swain and Pearson, and they talk about how they talk about strategies that teachers can use for helping kind of with bridging the digital divide. Even 14 years later, I think this is good advice. And what they do is they identify the problem is actually twofold. Number one, teachers must examine access to students, what the students have access to. Okay, so the access to technology, and then as we've reported before, that's probably getting better, but again, we still have to make sure that what is the access for all students, and then teachers must examine the equity in the educational experiences that the students have with technology. So even in 2001, Swain and Pearson were talking about the equitable kinds of experiences that the students were having. And as I stated in the part 2, what we do know is there are severe equitable differences in how the technology is used with students, especially according to their ability level. Okay, so what can you do? Um, Excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze. Swain and Pearson highlight 5 different things. They think that you can have school and classroom strategies, that how you use technology in your classroom, the quantity versus the quality, and then how reflective, here comes that word again, how reflective practices for teachers can be very beneficial, training for all, in terms of, and that all is defined, and then how can we be a person that looks out to gain resources for our own classroom. We can't just sit and think that those resources are just going to automatically come to us. That how can we do that, and how can we be a little bit more proactive in those kinds of scenarios. So again, very quickly, I just want to highlight a few of these things. In terms of the school and classroom strategies, please note that when they talk about it in the article, they have a sentence that specifically says teachers can and do affect the physical school learning environment. And I think that is so true. You impact what happens in your environment at school, how you set up your classroom, what you ask for, how you get others to come in and help you. That whole environment is determined by you, and you need to be, again, proactive with that. So think about the location and placement of technology within your building, within your classroom. I put on here that labs versus classrooms versus one-to-one. That's kind of the continuum that we have. I think we're seeing less and less of labs. We're seeing more where we can at least bring it to our classrooms, and then we're seeing more one-to-one. I think we'll see more one-to-one in elementary as as you guys prepare to graduate. In Iowa, at least, I think that will be happening. I think that seamless integration is what you want. Technology doesn't have to be forced. That, again, you just kind of do it naturally and fit into it. Your technology lesson plan, that's what we're looking for. It's like, how have you thought about how technology is going to be integrated into this content that you're teaching? And hopefully it's just seamless. It's not forced. You're not just trying to use technology because 201 class said you had to, but that you're really thinking about it in that TPAC model. I think TPAC helps us keep it seamless if we just use the model to help us frame how we're using it in the classroom. Classroom access, the proximity is really important. Again, if you enter a school and it's still a lab, I would contend that that school has not probably gotten very far with technology integration. So if you're hired in a district with that, how could you help? How could you be proactive in helping them think about how to use technology at their school? Because again, once you're a teacher, you're a leader in that school. Availability of technology, how do we keep it available for students during school? That's important. What are they experiencing during school? But what's before and after school too? If it's not a one-to-one program that they take them home with them, how can we provide opportunities before school and after school for those kids to use the technology that we have? It's possible, okay? And those are solutions. Use, quantity versus quality. Use a variety of software tools with all students. Quantity, right? We hope that we're just not using educational games as our only option. We hope that we're just not letting students use technology to look up information on the internet. You guys, think of everything that you've learned about in this course and think of all the stuff that we weren't able to have you do. There's a plethora of possibilities with technology use. It's just matching up, what can the technology do to really significantly impact student learning. But I think what you need to pay very, very close attention to is how is the software and hardware being used to meet the needs of all students. How have we modeled this in this semester in 201, in that the quality of use. We've tried to press the more probably the creator kinds of things with technology and so forth, and I'm hoping that that's where you'll be in the classroom. Again, there's a learning curve to all this and a learning curve to being a teacher. So as you gradually become comfortable with these things, hopefully you'll be able to implement them, and not just your lower ability students are using games, okay? They're also using Scratch. They're also using Keynote maybe, or PowerPoint to make a presentation. There's just a variety of things that you can be doing with your students this way. So that quote there kind of sums it up in terms of how we started this. Access and equity are not the same. Okay, just because you have access doesn't mean you're getting equitable use of that technology. Reflective practices for teachers, and we've been saying this, just the ability to think about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how can you do it better. How are you using the technology to assist all? Are you, after a lesson plan, thinking, how am I helping all students in this? Again, that equitable association with that. Continue to improve your technology skills in your classroom implementation. 201 is one class. A lot of you are getting the minor, and I applaud you. I think you'll get farther with this. Those of you who aren't and who don't have time for it in your program will think it doesn't stop, because 201 in a year, some of the things that we'll be doing will be outdated and so forth. So how do you keep progressively learning about that. Empower and challenge your student. Take opportunity for professional development when you can. Also, start conversations in your schools. You know, what have you learned and how can you share it? You can be a catalyst for change. You really can, in how you model technology integration for other teachers. Training for all. Again, this requires a significant change in how we think about our pedagogical approach to teaching. Okay, it does. It changes the way we think about that. So we need to just keep providing you with support. So look for that in your school districts. But remember, administrators are a piece of this puzzle. They have to support you and they have to provide you with the time to do so. And then parents, don't forget about parents and your stakeholders in your community. They can be very, very helpful too. And make sure that they know what you're doing with technology and how you're doing it. One of the exciting pieces is this gaining resources. This is difficult, but I think it's something that we're getting better at, but we have to do better at. If you're in the learning technology minor, you'll actually have an opportunity to do this a little bit because we build it into one of our courses. But personnel, equipment, and funding resources are extremely important to close that gap. Okay, it isn't that we don't have the money for technology a lot of times. It's, are we spending it wisely? And then if we spend it wisely, we will help that gap. But you need to aggressively seek resources, not only for technology, you guys, but for other things in your classroom, whether it be paper and pencils and stickers and books and you know, experiments and just all those kinds of things. But specifically for technology, think about, there are fundraisers. I don't care for that as much because I think they do get a lot of fundraisers anyway. But PTOs, parent teacher associations, they're always looking to give teachers money. Store programs, Best Buy, teacher names about 3 years ago entered the Best Buy competition and they got $15,000 worth of equipment. How cool is that? And but it's kind of like the lotto. If you don't play, you can't win. And so if you don't submit grants and things like that, you can't get them. Private organizations are always really, really good. One that I want to just mention is Donor Choose. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Oprah has kind of made this famous in terms of her entrepreneurial self and so forth. But you guys go to this site and see it, okay? If I was in class, I would show you. You guys, there's schools all over Iowa. You just have to enter the zip code in there. They're looking for, and people just give money. I've done it. I've gone in and just, I mean, $20 here, $10 here. It's really exciting and people are really cool about it. So don't forget that there are ways of doing this too, in which you can acquire. And this is kind of like fundraising, but it's a little bit different because people choose to donate. It's not like you go and ask them and then they feel forced to donate. People actually look at this site, look at the projects, and they provide the money for them. And it's just really, really cool. So have a look at this. Please have a look at that. So for bridging the gap, you guys, these are things that I feel that you can do as a teacher. You can control it. You can control how your technology is organized and managed in your classroom. You can bring it to your classroom. You can reserve that laptop cart or that iPad cart or whatever. Okay, you can work with your one-to-one group, or you know, however that's managed. Who gets to use the technology and when they use it and how they use it? That is strictly up to you because you are the instructional design leader in your classroom. So what the students do with the technology, and then how can you make the technology available for all students, okay? And that's kind of that gaining of the resources and so forth, okay? So with that, bridging the digital divide, what can you do to kind of support equality, but yet the equitable use of that technology? And I think it's, if you understand those terms and really practice those in your classroom, I think you're going to be miles ahead of others and how they feel and what they do with this. So hopefully you have a better idea of, our challenges with the digital divide, but yet some real practical things that you can do as a classroom teacher to help. Okay, so done finally. Um, thanks for kind of putting up with the week being flipped, and we'll see you after break. Have a wonderful break.